The glass sphere groaned beneath the weight of its own magic, a low, resonant hum vibrating through every shard and pane that encased the floating city. Lira stood at the apex of the central spire, her breath shallow, eyes locked on the widening fissure that stretched across the gleaming surface. The crack had been growing for days, but now it throbbed like a wound, pulsating with raw energy that made the very air shimmer and distort. Around her, the city trembled. The endless storm below churned with renewed ferocity, lightning dancing wildly against the glass walls, thunder crashing in a relentless symphony. Citizens scattered through the streets, their faces a mixture of fear and disbelief, as glass fragments rained like crystalline snow, sparkling in the storm's eerie light. Lira, Terran's voice cut through the chaos, his figure emerging from the swirling mist at the spire's base. The council is mobilizing their forces. They're coming for you. She nodded, her hands crackling with the sphere's volatile magic. Then we have no time. The sphere is breaking, and if I don't act soon, the whole city will fall. Her mind raced back to the ancient glassmaker's words, whispered secrets learned in shadowed catacombs beneath the city. The sphere was not merely a prison. It was a living entity, bound by fragile enchantments and the bloodline of its creators. Now those bindings were undone, and the unleashed magic was a tempest beyond control. Suddenly, a deafening crack split the air as a jagged fissure tore across the sphere's surface, sending a shockwave that rippled through the city. Buildings trembled, and the ground beneath Lyra's feet pulsed like a beating heart. The storm's howl intensified, as if enraged by the sphere's fracture. Lira, you must decide, do you seize control, or do you let it all fall? Terran pleaded, his eyes wide with desperation. Before she could answer, a cold, commanding voice echoed from the council chambers far above. You cannot hold this power, girl. Surrender it at once, or the city will perish. Councillor Valen appeared, his robes glittering like shards of glass, his gaze sharp and unforgiving. Lira met his stare, feeling the weight of generations pressing down on her shoulders. I am not your pawn, Valen. This city belongs to its people, not to the corrupt elite who hide behind magic and fear, he sneered. Then you choose destruction. With a flick of his hand, shards of glass swirled into deadly projectiles, hurtling toward Lira. She raised her hands, summoning a barrier of shimmering light, the magic of the sphere responding to her will. The shards shattered harmlessly against the shield, but the effort drained her. The fissure widened, and from its depths poured a torrent of raw magic, a swirling maelstrom of light and shadow that threatened to engulf everything. The city screamed in response, its glass walls cracking, glass pieces falling like deadly rain. Lira's vision blurred as the magic surged through her, threatening to consume her very identity. Memories of her parents, the rebellion, the countless sacrifices flashed before her eyes. She realized this moment was more than a battle for survival, it was a test of her soul. Drawing upon every ounce of strength, she reached into the heart of the storm within the sphere. Her hands glowed with radiant energy, weaving ancient runes taught by the glassmaker. She channeled the chaotic magic, bending it, coaxing it into harmony. The fissure slowed its spread, the wild roar of the storm softening to a steady hum. Councillor Valen's expression faltered, his power waning against Lyra's will, but the cost was immense. Lyra's body trembled violently, sweat mingling with tears as she poured her essence into the sphere's healing. The city held its breath, suspended between ruin and salvation. Suddenly, a brilliant flash engulfed the spire, the final crack sealed by a wave of pure light. The storm below calmed, its fury retreating as if appeased. The glass sphere, though scarred, stood whole once more. Tareen rushed to Lira's side, grasping her hands. "You did it. You saved us." She smiled weakly, exhaustion pulling at her limbs. "No, we saved ourselves." Councillor Valen retreated, defeated but not destroyed, his eyes burning with silent promise of future conflict. As dawn broke over the floating city, the glass gleamed with new light each crack, a reminder of the trials endured, each shimmer a symbol of hope reborn. Lira looked out over Glassbound, no longer just an orphan or a rebel, but the guardian of a fragile peace forged in the final crack. Yet, deep within her, a whisper stirred a question of what price had truly been paid, and what storms still lay beyond the horizon. The city was saved, but the legacy of the sphere's magic was just beginning. The dawn broke gently over the horizon, its soft light spilling through the fragmented remnants of the once impenetrable glass sphere. Lira stood amidst the rubble, her gaze sweeping over the scattered shards that caught the morning sun and scattered it in fractured rainbows across the faces of the survivors. Around her, the people who had endured the storm and the shattering gathered faces marked by exhaustion, grief, and yet a flicker of something new, hope. The city was a ruin, but it was a ruin filled with possibility. The glass that had imprisoned them now lay broken, a symbol of the old order's fall and the future's uncertain promise. Lyra's fingers tingled with the residual magic that lingered in the air, a reminder of the power she had wielded to bring this moment about and the responsibility that weighed heavier than ever before. Una approached quietly, his steady presence grounding her. "It's hard to believe we're really here," he said softly, eyes tracing the sharp edges of the shattered dome. "But I think this is the first day of something better." Lira nodded, drawing a deep breath. "We have to make it better, for everyone. No more secrets, no more divisions." As the crowd assembled near the center of the ruined city, Lira climbed atop the tallest shard, the jagged crystal gleaming beneath her feet. The murmurs hushed, all eyes turning toward her. Her voice rang clear and steady, carrying across the open air. "We have survived the storm, the glass, and the chains that bound us. Now, together, we will rebuild not a city encased in glass, but a home forged from our shared strength and trust." Whispers of agreement rippled through the crowd. Mira stepped forward, her voice fierce but hopeful. "For too long, we were silenced, trapped beneath the weight of the ruling elite's magic. Now, we rise not as rebels or rulers, but as one people." The rebuilding began with careful planning and purpose. Former artisans and magic users worked alongside laborers and strategists, crafting plans not just for buildings, but for governance and community. Councillor Vale, once a voice of the old regime, now lent his knowledge to ensure that the new order would avoid the traps of the past. In quieter moments, Lira shared walks with Mira and Ewan through the streets, still littered with glass and memories. The air was crisp, the endless storm cleared for the first time in ages. They spoke of loss and of dreams, of the heavy price paid and the cost yet to come. "Do you think the city can really change?" Myra asked one evening, her eyes reflecting the dying light. "It has to," Lira replied, her voice firm. "Because if we don't believe that, then nothing we've done means anything." The forging of the new dome was both a literal and symbolic act. Artisans and magic wielders joined hands and wills, the hum of creation filling the air as new glass formed clear, strong, and unyielding, but no longer a prison. The light danced on the emerging crystal surfaces, reflecting the determination etched on every face. Lira watched as the first piece was set in place, a new beginning crystallized in glass and hope. The city was no longer bound, it was reborn. But as the sun set on this fragile dawn, Lira could not shake the knowledge that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. Old fears and new ambitions stirred beneath the surface. The true test of their rebirth was just beginning. "This is our chance," she whispered to the wind, "to build a future worthy of the sacrifices made. To be masters of our fate, not prisoners of glass." And with that vow, the city of Glassbound took its first steps beyond the storm. The early days of rebuilding were a whirlwind of activity. Debris was cleared, homes were repaired, and new structures began to rise from the ashes. Lyra's leadership became a beacon for both survivors and those who had once opposed her. She insisted on transparency, holding open councils where all voices could be heard. This was a radical change from the secretive rule of the Glassbound elite. Uwan took charge of logistics, organizing teams to distribute food, water, and supplies. His calm, methodical approach reassured many who feared chaos might return. Mira became the people's advocate, ensuring that the needs of the common folk were not lost in the grand designs of the new order. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Not all were ready to relinquish old grievances or embrace the uncertain future. Some former elites resisted, fearful of losing their status. Others among the commoners doubted that true equality was attainable. One afternoon, as Lira walked through a marketplace being rebuilt, she noticed a group gathered in heated discussion. Approaching cautiously, she overheard whispers of sabotage and unrest. She knew that the scars of the past would not heal overnight. Determined to address these fears, Lira convened a gathering in the heart of the city. The shattered shards of the glass dome surrounded them like a crown of broken jewels, a testament to both destruction and resilience. "We stand at a crossroads," she told the crowd. "We can let fear divide us, or we can unite and forge a new path. The choice is ours." Her words stirred something deep within the people. Murmurs of agreement swelled into applause. It was not perfect, but it was a start. As night fell, Lira returned to her quarters, the weight of leadership pressing heavily. She knew the road ahead would be long, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it. Outside, the storm had finally subsided, leaving a sky strewn with stars. A new era was dawning for Glassbound 1, born not of magic alone, but of hope, courage, and the unbreakable spirit of its people. And in that quiet moment, Lira allowed herself a small, rare smile. The city was alive again. The future was theirs to shape. The chapter closes on the bustling sounds of a city reborn. Hammers striking, voices laughing, children playing amidst the ruins. The broken glass no longer confines but glimmers as a reminder of the trials overcome and the promise ahead. Lyra's eyes reflect the light of this new dawn, her heart steady with resolve. Beyond the storm, beyond the shattered past, Glassbound rises anew. The dawn broke slowly over the glass-bound city, its light filtering through the delicate mosaic of shattered and mended panes that now crowned the high towers and winding streets. From her vantage point atop the tallest spire, Lira gazed out over the city she had fought so fiercely to save and to remake. The storm beyond still rumbled softly, a distant reminder of the peril that had once caged them all within their fragile prison. She inhaled deeply, the crisp morning air mingling with the faint scent of fresh resin used in the restoration of the glass structures below. The city was alive again, humming with cautious hope and whispered promises. People moved through the streets, their faces etched with the hard-won relief of survival and the tentative optimism of a fresh start. Children chased shards of sunlight, their laughter a fragile melody against the backdrop of a world forever changed. Beside her, Kellen's steady presence was a comfort. His amber eyes reflected the dawn's glow as he turned toward her, a quiet question lingering in his gaze. "Do you think they'll follow us?" Lira met his gaze, the weight of her journey threading through her thoughts. The rebellion had been more than a fight. It had been a reckoning. The shattered sphere had symbolized more than broken glass. It was the fracture of old ways, of oppression and silence. Now, standing at the precipice of a new era, she understood the true cost of power and what it meant to wield it wisely. "They will," she replied softly, "because they have no choice but to believe in something better." Their footsteps echoed softly as they descended into the chamber where shards of the broken sphere were, displayed in intricate mosaics, each fragment a story of pain and perseverance. The room was silent, save for the faint crackle of magical energy lingering in the air, a testament to the sphere's enduring influence. Kellen's voice was low, contemplative. "We've lost so much. Friends, family, the city itself. How do we carry that without breaking?" Lyra's eyes traced the glimmering patterns. "By remembering why we fight, not for power, but for freedom. For the chance to build something new from the pieces." Her words hung between them, heavy with truth. The rebellion had been born from desperation, but the future demanded more than defiance. It demanded vision and compassion. As the morning sun climbed higher, the central plaza filled with citizens gathering to hear Alicia speak. The elder stateswoman's voice rang clear and steady, a beacon of strength and resolve. "We stand at the dawn of a new era," Alicia declared, her robes catching the light and scattering it like fractured glass. "The legacy we inherit is not just of shattered walls and broken chains, but of the courage to heal and to unite. Let us remember the cost of hatred and the power of hope. Together, we will rebuild not just our city, but the trust that binds us." Cheers rose, tentative but growing, as faces lifted toward the sky, eyes bright with the possibility of change. Lira watched from afar, feeling the pulse of the city's heart beat anew. Later, as twilight softened the edges of the day, a figure approached, ethereal, almost translucent. The glassmaker, his form shimmering with the light of ages past, moved with a grace that seemed to ripple through the air. Lira, his voice was like the tinkling of glass bells, fragile yet enduring. "You have shattered what was once whole, but from the shards you have forged a new strength." He extended a hand, delicate fingers brushing a softly glowing shard. "This is your legacy, the light born from brokenness. Guard it well, for it will guide you and those who follow." Lira reached out, her fingers closing around the shard's cool surface. She felt the pulse of magic, ancient, potent, and alive, coursing through her veins. "I will," she vowed, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within. "For the city, for its people, for the future." The glassmaker's form shimmered and faded, leaving behind a silence tinged with reverence and possibility. Night settled over the glassbound city, stars reflected in the panes like scattered jewels. Lira stood once more on the tower, the shard warm in her palm. She knew the road ahead was fraught with challenges, that the balance between power and freedom was a delicate one. But for the first time in a long time, she felt the unyielding strength of hope. The city was no longer a prison. It was a promise, and she was ready to lead it into the light. The wind whispered through the glass, carrying with it the echoes of a new dawn, fragile, radiant, and boundless. As the first stars blinked awake, a distant rumble of the storm reminded Lira that the road beyond the glass sphere was still uncertain. Yet beneath the surface of fragile peace, the city's heartbeat grew stronger with every choice made in the light of freedom. The legacy of glass and blood, shattered and reforged, was hers to shape. But what sacrifices would tomorrow demand? And would the light she carried be enough to keep the darkness at bay? The workshop was alive with a soft glow, the molten glass swirling like liquid fire in the great furnace. Lira stood at the edge of the room, her eyes fixed on the glowing orb of amber and sapphire hues as Emin. The master glassmaker worked with the precision of a seasoned artist. The air was thick with heat and the scent of molten sand, a sharp contrast to the cool, broken city outside. This was not merely a task of craft, it was a ritual of renewal. "It's almost ready," Iman said, his voice gravelly but steady as he turned to face her. His silver hair caught the furnace's light, casting a halo around his weathered face. "The glass must be perfect, flawless, like the hope we're trying to build." Lira nodded, her fingers instinctively tracing the faint scars along her own palms, a reminder of battles fought and sacrifices made. "The city needs more than protection now," she said softly. "It needs a symbol. Something to remind everyone that we're not prisoners but masters of our fate." Around them, the workshop hummed with quiet activity. Apprentices moved carefully, passing tools and preparing molds, their faces lit by the fiery glow. The air vibrated with a sense of purpose, a collective breath held in anticipation. Outside, the shattered remnants of the old sphere lay scattered like broken dreams, shards reflecting the storm-tossed sky. The endless tempest that had once threatened to consume the city now seemed a distant memory, yet its roar lingered in the hearts of many. In the council chamber, a few floors above, Cerise and Jorin stood in a tense but respectful dialogue. The room was bathed in the soft light of enchanted lamps, their warm glow softening the sharp edges of the recent conflicts. Cerise's elegant robes rustled quietly as she gestured toward the maps spread across the table. "We must hold fast to this fragile piece," she urged. "The new sphere can be our shield, but only if we stand united." Jorin's scarred hands clenched and unclenched. "Unity is fragile," he replied, his voice low but firm. "The rebellion's wounds run deep. Some may see this as a chance to seize power anew." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft knock, and Lira entered, her presence commanding yet approachable. "The sphere is nearly complete," she announced, her voice steady. "It will be lifted into place tonight. This is not just glass, it is our future." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over the assembled leaders. Hope flickered in their eyes, but so did caution. Back in the workshop, the final moments of crafting were underway. Iman's hands moved deftly, coaxing the glass into its final form. Lira assisted where she could, her magic subtly reinforcing the structure, weaving strands of shimmering energy within the translucent walls. As the hours passed, the new sphere took shape, an immaculate globe of crystal clarity, embodying both strength and fragility. When the moment came to lift it, a hush fell over the gathered crowd outside. The sphere ascended slowly, suspended by enchanted chains, its surface catching the light of the setting sun and fracturing it into a cascade of rainbows. Children gasped in wonder, elders wiped tears from their eyes, and even the storm seemed to still, as if in reverence. The city beneath the sphere stirred with renewed life, its people looking upward with a cautious but growing optimism. Lira stood at the forefront, her gaze steady as she felt the pulse of magic flowing through the glass live, vibrant and filled with promise. Yet beneath her calm exterior, she knew the challenges ahead were far from over. The sphere was a beginning, not an end. Old divisions still whispered in shadowed corners, and new trials awaited beyond the horizon. But tonight, under the gleaming new sphere, the city dared to dream again. "This is our dawn," Lira whispered to herself, "and I will see it through." As the light faded into twilight, the new glass sphere shimmered like a beacon against the darkening sky, its flawless surface a testament to resilience and the fragile hope of a people reborn. The endless storm beyond still raged, but inside, a new era had begun, one shaped by courage, unity, and the unbreakable spirit of the Glassbound. The wind howled around the highest spire of the floating city, carrying with it the raw fury of the endless storm that churned beneath the glass sphere. Lira stood at the pinnacle, her silhouette etched sharply against the turbulent sky. The shards of the once impenetrable sphere glimmered faintly, suspended like stars caught in a celestial dance. Her eyes, glowing with a glassy blue light, scanned the horizon where the violent tempest met the fragile edges of their home. Tonight was the culmination of everything she had fought for, the moment when choice would become destiny. For years, the city of Glassbound had been trapped, suspended in a prison of its own making. The endless storm below was a relentless reminder of their confinement, a roaring beast that threatened to consume them if the fragile glass ever failed. Within this fragile prison, society had fractured along lines as sharp as the shards that now floated in the air between the ruling elite who claimed magical inheritance and the oppressed workers who dreamed of freedom. Lira, orphaned and once powerless, had risen through trials and betrayals. Guided by the whispers of the storm and the ancient magic coursing through her veins, she carried the legacy of the sphere's creators, a gift and a burden intertwined. Her journey had been one of discovery, loss, and resolve, and now she stood ready to face the final challenge. Beneath her, the city stirred. The rebellion had evolved into a movement, a swell of voices demanding change. Kale, the steadfast rebel commander, moved through the streets, rallying the people with words forged from hope and defiance. Ellis, once a member of the ruling council, now stood at the forefront of reform, her silver hair catching the light as she prepared to usher in a new era. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of soft pink and purple, Lira lifted her arms, feeling the storm's energy pulse through her. The air around her crackled with raw magic, the boundary between the sphere and the tempest blurring. The storm's voice, the ethereal presence that had guided and challenged Hearthworld. In a tempest of wind and crackling light, its form shifting with every heartbeat. "Lira," it whispered, the voice both thunderous and tender, "the choice is yours. Shatter the prison, and chaos will reign. Seize control, and tyranny may rise anew. Or harmonize with the storm, and forge a new path." Her breath caught. The weight of centuries pressed down on her shoulders, the hopes and fears of a city trembling in the balance. She closed her eyes, reaching deep within to the core of her being, to the glass-bound magic that had been her guide and her torment. With a steady voice, she spoke, not as prisoner, not as tyrant, as guardian and guide. The storm roared in response, the sky erupting in a symphony of lightning and thunder. But instead of destruction, the energy bent to her will, weaving a luminous barrier around the city. The glass walls shimmered like liquid crystal, stronger and more radiant than ever before. Below, the citizens gathered in the central plaza, faces turned upward in awe and wonder. The banners that once symbolized rebellion now fluttered alongside those of the old guard, united in a fragile but hopeful alliance. The endless storm, once a symbol of despair, now whispered promises of challenge and opportunity. Kale approached Lira as she descended from the spire, his eyes reflecting the dawn's light. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it," she replied, her smile tinged with both exhaustion and exhilaration. The storm is no longer our jailer. It's our test. Ellis joined them, her voice soft but resolute. A new era begins today, one where power is shared and freedom is earned. Lira looked out over the city she had saved and transformed. The shards of the broken sphere still floated around them, reminders of the past's fragility. But now, those fragments caught the light of the new dawn, reflecting a future forged by courage and unity. As the storm calmed to a gentle rumble, Lira knew that their true journey was only beginning. The city would face challenges yet unseen, but they would face them as masters of their fate, not prisoners of glass. Beyond the storm, a horizon of endless possibilities stretched out, shimmering with the promise of freedom and hope. And Lira, the glassbound heir, would lead them there. The morning unfolded like a slow bloom, the city streets filling with the murmur of voices lifted in tentative celebration. Markets reopened, children ran with laughter, and the once foreboding glass walls now gleamed with a renewed brilliance that seemed to pulse with life. Everywhere, people spoke of the impossible. The storm had not consumed them. It had become part of their strength. Within the council chamber, Ellis convened with leaders from the newly united factions. Plans were drawn to rebuild the city's infrastructure and to create laws that honored the balance between magic and governance. The age-old divisions that had fractured society began to heal as old enemies extended hands in partnership. Kale, ever the warrior, trained new recruits in the art of defense, not only against external threats, but to protect the fragile peace they had won. His fierce gaze softened as he watched Lira from afar, marveling at the transformation she had undergone from a desperate orphan to a beacon of hope. Yet, beneath the celebrations, Lira remained vigilant. The storm's voice echoed faintly still, a reminder that nature's fury was never truly tamed, only respected. She spent hours in meditation atop the spire, communing with the essence of the sphere's magic, honing her control and seeking wisdom for the challenges ahead. In quiet moments, she reflected on the cost of their victory, the sacrifices made, the friends lost, and the burdens she now carried. Power was a double-edged glass, beautiful yet sharp, capable of both creation and destruction. She vowed to wield it with humility and courage. As twilight fell once more, the city gathered in the central plaza, where a monument was unveiled, towering sculpture of glass and stormlight, symbolizing resilience and unity. Lira spoke to the crowd, her voice steady and filled with warmth. Today, we are no longer bound by glass or fear. We are one people, forged in the storm and shaped by our choices. Together, we will face whatever comes beyond, not as prisoners, but as masters of our destiny. The crowd erupted in cheers, the sound ringing clear and true beneath the vast sky. The endless storm, serene now, cast a gentle glow over Glassbound, a silent guardian and a reminder of the journey yet to come. And as the stars appeared, twinkling like shards of hope scattered across the heavens, Lira felt the weight of the future settle comfortably in her hands, future she would shape with strength, wisdom, and unbreakable spirit.